Next is our panelist from New Zealand, Mark Wightman. Mark is a long-term professional in the industry and started in the Royal Navy and Merchant Navy, moved onshore in 2004 and set up Integrated Marine Group. Mark is well known in the industry, and we look forward to hearing all about New Zealand as a destination and as a refit centre as well. Thank you. Over to you, Mark.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Well, it's evening here. It's 10 o'clock at night. I'll quickly to talk to a few things. It's really region-wide. The general region of Australia, Papua New Guinea and New Zealand. The first thing, we're going to show you some really good slides tonight, and everyone's going to say, wow, but the real customer experience that comes with the yachts that are visited here, the crew, is they talk about the people, their experiences with the people, the way we are. I think we're casual but professional in our part of the world. We get the job done, but we also know how to pick our heels up, and yachts like that, owners like that, and it works very well. So I think as we go through, I'll talk to a few of those experiences, but that's the key to it. My experience is both in refit and the yacht support side agency. I've been in the yacht industry a little bit longer than Susie said. I've done the previous two America's Cups here, where we had a 50-metre vessel turning up, everyone turned heads. Now that when they sail up the harbour, hardly anyone notices them. So such as our industry's changed. So if I get Nick to move to my next slide, it shows our perspective to the rest of the world. So that's New Zealand implanted in Europe. And while they think we're a small country at the bottom of the world, we're going all the way from Denmark down to Marseille. And when you put that in perspective, we've got a big area to cover, and that's why we need to work collaboratively with our neighbouring relations, our Australia and all the Pacific Islands, New Guinea, up through Asia. So then you put New Zealand into Australia, and suddenly we're just a blip, absolute blip, and that really puts in perspective just how vast Australia is in our wider territory. I mean, we're still 2 time zones east of us to French Polynesia, and we cover a very big part of the planet. We'll get you to move on there, Nick, to the next slide. So New Zealand, I'll quickly brief on that. It's more to show you the topographical, very mountainous in the southern South Island and the southern North Island. The rest is a bit less alpine in the north, but the main cruising regions to the very northeast at the top corner of the map. So we'll move on, if we could, to the next slide. And I'll start talking about the regions starting at the top. So the North Island, that's a quick shot of Auckland. The harbour entrance where yachts had come in from offshore. The yachts in the foreground is one of the key race areas for America's Cup. So things are happening fairly close to the action. It's just a pity we couldn't share it with a few more people, but we'll work on that. We'll just start stepping through those slides if we could. Next, we'll move to the Bay of Islands. Can you hear me, Nick?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, the North Island. So just quick, just step back one there. Sorry to hold you up. So you see the top from Auckland north, it's Coromandel to the west, and the Bay of Islands north to the cruising regions and down into the Bay of Plenty. That's the principal area that probably 75% of the yachts that come to New Zealand would focus on. The other areas that I'll cover are a little bit less subscribed to, but they, for me, they're the jewels in our crown, but it's something that's waiting to be unleashed. Now we move on to the Bay of Islands. I'll quickly just talk through it. So that's just an island in the Bay of Islands. Many have heard of that. Plenty of anchorages, plenty of safety. The big thing with New Zealand tourism and the rest of our region is that it's not only the yachting side, it's also the onshore experiences. I mean, there's just about unimaginable limits to what you can do. I mean, you got dune bike riding there, and the dune's probably less than an hour's ride from any jetty in the north. We'll keep moving on. If we could just keep slowly rolling through the slides here, Nick. So you can play golf. That's in the very same region, the Maori cultural side of it in Waitangi in the Bay of Islands. It's all there. There's the flora and fauna, so a very familiar little creature there, and one of the biggest trees on the planet. Some of those are measuring 8 meters in diameter. So this is Whangaroa, slightly north of the Bay of Islands. It's in the feedback from the yachts. It's probably one of the favourites because you can anchor in very deep water, in nice and close and sheltered. And then there's an entrance that's showing a vessel going out through the entrance, and just around the corner there's a reasonable surf break and plenty of other activities. There's no end of experiences. There's game fishing out beyond the islands in the distance, and as you can see, and this is moving a little bit further south, you have the Poor Knights, which is you've got to get special permits to go in there, but some really spectacular diving and cave diving where you can go take the boat right inside a cave with the right size vessel, and that's world-renowned dive site. So we'll just keep rolling on. I'm conscious that my time's limited. So down in Auckland at the moment, we've got a bit going on, a few yachts, and I've got to say, when you see those things up close, I mean, you can watch them on the big screen, but when you get up close to one at full speed, it's an impressive sight. They hum like anything, and it's a marvel and a testament to all the boat building nations that are getting in behind that technology. It's really impressive. And then we'll just keep rolling on a bit. So that's a picture at the bottom there. That's the marina at the moment, and as is that's a view looking towards the Silo Marina and Orams Marine in the background, taken this morning. So that's what it looks like at the moment. As I just happened to catch at the same time a boat going in the water with a camera at the ready, taking as many photos as they like, so that the spies were out right from the start. So we've got plenty of action, but as you can see, the marinas are a bit light. So as I mentioned before about the onshore tourism, and here's some of the bits and pieces you can do as you move down the island around Rotorua and Taupo. For people on yachts, particularly if you had a helicopter or had hired access to a helicopter, you can do some amazing things and be back on board comfortably in the afternoon, eating the fish you've caught during the day, as well as whether it's be a trout or a marlin. There's the Hobbiton, the Hobbit Village, a volcanic activity in Rotorua, and it's the fame of White Island recently, but I think we just need to keep a little distance from that. There's luxury lodges in the central North Island, but they're scattered the length of the country and getting better and better. It works out very well for yachts to be able to place the owners in those for a few days to make some of the bigger journeys up and down the coast. And, there's some really fantastic places to stay. And there's, trout guides, and they catch some pretty impressive trout. We'll just keep rolling if we could, or otherwise I'll run a bit shy of time. So we move to the South Island now, the Marlborough Sounds. That's one of the southern gems that we talked about. It works very well in the peak summer months when it may be a bit busy for some in the north. You can do a lot more peaceful cruising down here. I mean, there's a quick, just stop on that slide a minute. So you've got to the right there with French Pass, Picton, the main sounds in that area, but it's also, you've got the opportunity to go out to the northwest to Abel Tasman National Park, and some fantastic experiences, hikes, and reasonably safe anchorages, as long as you don't get the wind coming from the north or northeast. But you can quickly get back into the sounds, into shelter. And as we roll through, you'll see some of the splendour, not that the rest of the New Zealand doesn't have it, but a lot of whale watching in the area down in Kaikoura, and the sounds themselves and around the area. The sea life is prolific, and there's Abel Tasman National Park for you. It's a fantastic place. Kiwis love it just as much as the rest of the world. It's something that's all on everyone's bucket list. And then the vineyards they're fairly much up and down the country, but the real concentrations in the Marlborough area and the lower south around Queenstown. So we still have majestic mountains. So for anyone going cross country between joining and leaving the vessel. There's just endless things to do. We'll roll on a bit. So there's some of the high country lodges to the south. You can do helicopter into secluded hunting regions and fishing regions, or just exploration, nature experiences. It's just endless. It's imagination limited. Here again, doing that. So we're moving now into Fiordland, which to me is the real jewel of the crown. I mean, it's a national park, and you can see by the cruise ship that navigation in there is, it's pretty unlimited. The fjords just drop away so much that you can almost touch the cliffs in places, and you've got 30 meters of water immediately. But it just gives a brief look at the extent of the sounds, going right from Milford in the top all the way down to probably Dusky Sound, and the bottom is, well, certainly as far as I've been. Some of the, it's a little bit flattered to the bottom, but one thing that I've done time down in there, fishing and hunting and whatever, and the most amazing thing is down between breaks. If we just go back to that last slide, Breaksea Sound and Dusky Sound is, you've got some of the islands out. There's an island there called Resolution Island, and it was the first shipwreck in New Zealand. And then they built a boat that they out of what they could resurrect, and then a longboat, and took it all the way to Sydney and survived to tell the story. And there's still remnants of that. There's remnants of where Captain Cook berthed his Endeavour in one of the sounds there. You can still see some of the timber that they felled for walkways. And along in another region, there was an early conservationist that in the 1800s that had been protecting the kakapo, and you can still see his camp in this little island, and you just wonder how anyone would have done it. But when you tour there, it's all there undisturbed because so few people go there. So anyway, moving on to some of the images around. So yeah, that's just a bit further up. That's in Milford Sound itself. And the peaks are just vertical, and after a rainstorm, it's most spectacular because everything's just awash. There's waterfalls in all directions, and it's just truly spectacular, as that image depicts.
Those US.
All right. So yeah, and then helicoptering into there is quite easy. There's some very experienced pilots who will drop you right, drop your guests right to where you can get the boat in. The big thing is there that the owners and guests don't have to endure the passages down the coast. They can go to all the lodges and then experience the best of it without the pain. So that top shot shows when we were there how close you can get to the rocks. That's almost touching the flora, and we're still fishing away there. It's just spectacular. It's probably the one downside of that region is, the scarcity of anchorages. And the fact that you do need a pilot on some of the larger yachts, but it's definitely worth it. So the walking in there is spectacular. It's another world. You go in there, and because it gets such heavy rainfall, you see different things. And then the fauna there, I mean, you see all that close up. It's, seals, penguins, kea, and lots of fish life. The place is alive. And for anyone that's got a taste for crayfish, that's the place to go. And so we'll just move on now. I'm just conscious of time, just to talk a little bit about refit and repair. So there's two main reasons that people come to New Zealand. And after what you've just seen, you'd be surprised to learn that some yachts come there for refit alone, as they do for Australia, and prefer the warmer climates. But you can see what they're missing out on. So I'll just quickly step through the key areas where refit can be undertaken. And there's just too much detail in that. But in the north at Whangarei, there's three significant facilities. There's a lot of, those boats are in there at the present under refit. A lot of resource up there, particularly because not only for as the commercial sector as well. So there's a lot of experience in engineering, and a lot of the liveaboard yachts go to Whangarei. They enjoy it. As the scale of the town is much smaller than in Auckland, and it's a great place to get work done, and it's really become one of the capitals for the liveaboard repair annual fleet. They're a little bit diminished this year, but there's still a few come in, and work goes on. So we go down to Auckland, that most people know. So you got Orange have just put a new 820 ton travel lift in, which is up and running. I saw it running around testing, going through the systems today, and they pulled a boat out with their other travel lift at the moment. So that's just on commissioning. You have the 180 metre dry dock across the harbour there in Babcock's, which is good for, you know, a lot of repairs, although you can't get in there for extensive lengths of time just because there's such heavy bookings on that. But Auckland, of all places, has probably the most skilled tradespeople. That's where the real yachting industry started and still goes. You know, you've got the companies like Southern Spars there and Doyle Sales, as well as all the central marine trades, and there's a real resource there. But you shouldn't underestimate the other regions as well. It's just a matter of find the place that suits you, and you'll be able to get the work done. So we move a bit further south to Tauranga. They've got a 320 ton travel lift down there, and they've just completed a new paint shed there, and we've been doing work down there. Well, we have been on all 3 sites, but we've been very impressed with what we've seen down there. It's really good caliber tradespeople coming through, a good work ethic, and I think of all the sites in terms of, you know, it always comes down to crew as well, where they like to be. And while there was a real preference for Auckland, I think there's a bit of a tide shift where it's, you know, people go where they want to go. If there's good surfing in the region, they like surfing, they'll go there, and all those places offer the work, so it's up to the options what the crew would enjoy. So just a few other areas. We've got the dry dock in the South Island at Lyttelton, which is really probably for emergency docking, and short term, but it's sort of facility available. To the north, we just right back to my last slide there. There's Bay of Islands Marina at the north is that's the entry point for a lot of yachts that you can clear customs at, and at the moment that's where they're clearing and letting people quarantine for COVID, one of the key ports. So, and a secure dock there. So, and there's Nelson as well, that down in your Marlborough region, where you can get some work done as well as a slipway, but heavy commercial bookings on the 2 South Island plants. So that pretty much wraps it. It's up to the questions from there. Yeah, you know, and I'd revert back to my first comment. It's the experience in New Zealand and our wider region with the others. It's going to be the people. Like, you can go to these spectacular places, but it's the people. We had a yacht that went to out to Great Barrier Island, which is up from Auckland, and they took a bus tour. And when they were going along, the owners, it was quite a big bus because they had a big contingent. A fairly rickety bus, but it did the job. And they saw a rather strange-looking house, and the owner asked the bus driver who would live there, and the owner said, "Well, it's actually my house." So he said, "Would you like to come for a cup of tea?" So they all went in there, and it turned out to be the highlight of their experience, just because it was something unscheduled and seeing people for what they really are. And every yacht is going to get that sort of experience in their own way. And part of the fun is getting out there and being prepared to be excited, because there's plenty to be proud of. Anyway, that wraps it up for me. If there's any questions, I'm happy to cover them. I can do that either by answering questions by email or do it here and now with a question and answer.